All right, so that is loading up. Just checking it out. We are live, I believe, guys. Yep, we are now live. So welcome everybody to day 3, or I guess our 3rd installment of Cannabis Night School, presented by Wholesome Co and in partnership with the Utah Patients Coalition and Standard Wellness. We are going to wait just a couple more minutes for the rest of the class to get in and join us. So just sit tight, grab your pen and paper, get ready to take some notes down. This is going to be a great evening of education. We're really excited. We're going to be diving into all the different product categories that are available in Utah. We've got some really great guests with us, so hang tight and we'll get this show on the road in just a minute. Everything is looking good. What's up, Beth? You did make it. You're good. All righty. How's it going, everybody? We're just waiting another minute or so for the rest of the class to get here, but we'll be hopping in just a second. So bear with us, please.
Remember, at night school, people kind of trickle in, you know, a little bit later.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes after the bell. Hope everyone had a nice dinner if you were wrapping up your dinner. Oh, Zach, we're doing very well in Cannabis Land. We're at Cannabis University in Cannabis Land, USA. How's it going, Brent? Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see, what time do we got here? Okay, cool. We're a few minutes past 7, guys. So I think we'll go ahead and get started here. Let me just get situated. All right, beautiful. So hello, everybody. Welcome to another wonderful night of Cannabis Night School presented by Wholesome Co. We're so happy to have you guys all out here with us tonight. This installment is in partnership with Utah Patients Coalition, as well as Standard Wellness. They are one of the processors and extractors here in Utah. We're really excited to have them on board with us for tonight. And so real quickly, my name is Julian Miranda. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Wholesome Co. I will be your main host for the night. We are so happy to have you here. We're going to be covering methods of consumption tonight. Really excited to dive into this topic with you all. And I will hand it over to our other co-host.
My name is Kylee. I am the pharmacist in charge here at Wholesome Co.
Awesome, thank you. And Jake?
Yeah, I'm Jake Fisher, the lead chemist for Standard Wellness. I come from 14 years of analytical chemistry experience in the pharmaceutical space, working for a clinical research organization, helping get drugs basically patented and approved and through the FDA screening process. And I'm happy to have found a position as a chemist within the cannabis space so I can help to create the medications that you guys all need.
Beautiful.
I'm Desiree Hennessy. I'm with the Utah Patients Coalition. We're, kind of the lobbyist group for the patient's voice at the Capitol, and we are also rolling out the patient subsidy program. We're going to be approving patients that are just indigent, not just terminal, starting about this week, I think. So, yeah, if you know anybody that needs little help paying for their cannabis, shoot us an email at utahpatients.org. You can go there to apply.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all you do, Des. You are a super woman, superhero, amazing. Thank you. Oh, it's always a pleasure having you on. So we've got a great lineup for you guys. Tonight's topics, understanding the methods of consumption. So we're going to talk about what product categories are approved in Utah, how these products are made, how to consume these products, and how to dose them, followed by a Q&A. And I do want to just point out that, any dosing suggestions offered in this presentation should not be taken as medical advice. You should always seek dosing guidance from your QMP or the pharmacist at your local cannabis pharmacy. The information that we're going to be sharing with you guys is meant to just kind of give you a general idea, a general starting place, but we definitely encourage you to have these conversations directly with your QMP or your pharmacist before moving forward. That's always, super important. And again, just a super special thanks to our partners for tonight's Cannabis Night School Utah Patients Coalition. If you haven't already, head over to their Facebook page. We've done a 20% coupon code for Utah Patients Coalition. It's 20% off, excluding flower products, and it expires on May 31st. So definitely get those before those codes expire next Monday. And also a big special thank you to Standard Wellness and Jake for joining us for this on this evening. He's a wealth of information and knowledge. We're really excited to be working with him and getting to know him a little bit more. And also, in light of our partnership, we are doing a 15% discount as well on all Standard Wellness products, excluding flower. If you want to place an online order or a delivery order, you can use the code standard15. But if not, you can walk in and take advantage of that discount code. Again, that code expires on May 31st. And it applies to Standard Wellness products specifically, excluding flower. And all these codes are explicitly at our Wholesome Co pharmacy. So a little bit about Wholesome Co. So we are one of the licensed cannabis pharmacies currently operating in West Bountiful. We're open 7 days a week. You can see our hours down there on the left side of your screen and our contact info. In addition to an excellent selection of products and a very knowledgeable staff at our pharmacy, we also offer remote or virtual pharmacist consultations. Those are totally free. All new patients are required to have a pharmacist consultation prior to being able to shop after they get their card. And I also encourage patients to just go ahead and set up more pharmacist appointments even after your first one, just to follow up to learn more about other products, things of that nature. We have a large staff of pharmacists that are always willing and able and ready to talk to you and educate you guys more on how to use your medicine appropriately and to its maximum potential. So again, thank you all for joining us. And we also do delivery across the whole state as well. And I think I might have forgotten to mention that, but definitely check out our delivery services as well. Alrighty, so into the meat and potatoes for tonight, guys. So first, before we start talking about all the specific products, we just want to kind of introduce you to the language that the state and the DOH created for the types of products that are allowed in Utah. So on the slide, all the verbiage in the black text, that is pulled directly from the DOH website. This is the language that they used for outlining and specifying the different product categories or methods that cannabis can be legally consumed in Utah. And the text in orange is basically, just a little bit of extra clarification that we have added in because, and the reason why we did that is, for example, if you look at the liquid suspension product category, you won't really find any products in a pharmacy that are labeled as liquid suspension. They're typically labeled as a tincture or an oral spray. Same thing with transdermal preparation. So for example, some of the products that you'd find in a pharmacy that fall under a transdermal preparation would be creams, lotions, salves, balms, gels, transdermal patches. So again, the text in orange is just to kind of give you a little bit more clarification on what those product categories look like at a dispensary. Okay. And again, too, just so we're all aware, smoking cannabis is not permitted in Utah. You can buy cannabis flower, in 1/8 quantities, 7-gram quantities, etc. But state law requires that you put that flower into a dry herb vaporizer. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I just wanted to make that distinction very clear at this time. Also, the law prohibits candies, cookies, brownies, and other edible products such as beverages and whatnot. So keep in mind, you are allowed to have out-of-state product in Utah until July 1st. Was that correct, Des? Was it July 1st or 31st?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, July 1st. Then no more shopping out of state.
Perfect. So
no more carrying your product anywhere where you could get, don't carry your out-of-state product with you after July 1st.
Correct. So thank you for that clarification. And so again, just to reiterate, after July 1st, if you have out-of-state product on you that falls under one of these categories that are bulleted, and you have your med card will not protect you from from the law enforcement. You're outside of your legal protection if you have out-of-state product on you, even if you are a med patient. Okay, so I just want to really clarify that for you guys. All right, so in order to kind of help you guys understand how to think about some of these products, we've broken them up into 4 general product categories. So that's going to be inhalation, oral, sublingual, and topical. And so under each of those categories, we're going to have a few subcategories fall under that. So the first one being inhalation products, that's going to be your flower vaporization and your vape cartridges. All right. So flower, how that's made. So again, flower is, it's grown, cannabis is a plant. It's grown either indoors it's grown outdoors under sunlight, in a greenhouse, which is which protects it from the outside environment, but has glass on the top so that sunlight can come in, and it typically will have supplemental lighting as well. And then there's indoor cultivation, which the plants never see sunlight. They're totally in a enclosed space. There is air controls that are built in, dehumidification controls, heavily supplemented with lighting, things of that nature. And so I also just wanted to talk about popcorn buds for a quick second, because a lot of pharmacies carry that popcorn bud category, and not a lot of people, I don't think, really understand what's the difference between popcorn buds and the buds that you would find in a regular 1/8 or other container. And so popcorn is basically just the bud sites that are lower on the plant that aren't getting as much direct sunlight. They don't swell as large as the top of the plant would. Some people, typically, a traditional market term for this might be, LARF or something to that effect. I see you, Zach, your stuff. But yeah, so basically it's just lower buds that haven't, swollen up as large, as those top nugs have. So again, there's really no difference in quality. It's just a size difference. But Kylee, could you maybe speak to, how you can kind of consume and dose flower, broadly speaking?
Yeah, so we're going to kind of talk about probably how I would talk to maybe a first-time patient or a patient that doesn't have a lot of experience. Once you get a little more experienced, you kind of dial in your own dosing. But generally, when I'm dosing things like flower, I would say a 1 to 3 second draw would be pretty long, but it's not a bad place to start with that quick 1 second draw. Inhale, so draw it into your mouth, inhale all of that fresh, cool air then, and with it, The onset's pretty quick. You're generally seeing onset in 1 minute. And then peak effect is kind of 15 to 20 minutes out. So if you are a first-time patient, after that first inhalation, actually wait 15 or 20 minutes and make sure that you're not going to get much more of an effect than you're actually looking for. And then kind of duration of effect, 1 to 3 hours. I usually see about 90 minutes is what my reports are from my patients. So that is kind of the broad, high-level dosing for flower.
Perfect, perfect. And so how do you use your flower? Well, there are dry herb vaporizer devices that are available at every pharmacy. We carry several different brands and different price points at Wholesome Co. And what a dry herb vaporizer is essentially is a small portable oven where you can grind up your flower. And if you can see down here below, an image of a dry herb grinder. So your flower would go in the top part. You'll put the lid on it, you'll grind it and twist it. And then most dry herb grinders have 2 lower chambers. So the first chamber will hold your ground up flower, but then there's actually a second chamber underneath that, which is typically referred to as a keef catcher. And what keef is the trichomes that are on the flower itself. And what trichomes are these resinous glands where essentially all the cannabinoids and most of the terpenes are concentrated on the plant. So a big misconception is people think that, you know, the leaves are what store all the cannabinoids and terpenes and medicine. That's actually a misconception. It's on the flower and really truly on those trichomes. So definitely get a dryer vape grinder that has a little keef catcher, because as you can see, there's a little scooper that comes with it, and you can put that into your dryer vaporizer and vape that as well, mixed with your flower. Another just general kind of starting point for a temperature setting, a lot of these dryer vaporizers, they're pretty technologically advanced. They have a lot of functionality. You can set them at different temperatures. And so a good starting temperature is somewhere between 350 to 400 degrees. That'll vaporize your flower enough where you can really see that you're getting a good inhalation off of it and whatnot. And so, yeah, so these are just kind of like some starting guidelines. Kylee, I have a quick question for you. So
Yes.
if I'm a new patient, you know, you're talking a little bit about, taking that 1 second dose, just waiting a few minutes to feel that onset. If I'm using a dryer vaporizer, this is my first time, do I need to consume that whole little oven or bowl that I packed? Should I use all of that up, or?
No, absolutely not. That is not necessary at all. You can actually leave the oven packed. You don't even have to unpack it. You can leave it in there for a little while and use the dose later.
Awesome. So I don't have to use it all at once.
Do not. Please do
Perfect.
not.
Perfect. Good. Excellent. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
All right. So let me see. I think that's all we got for this one, guys. Moving on to vape cartridges. This is an increasingly popular method of consuming cannabis. There's a lot to kind of unpack here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our friend, Jake the Chemist. Can you explain to us a little bit about how vape cartridges are made, what's inside of them? What's this deal about cannabis-derived terpenes and food grade or botanical terpenes that everyone seems to be talking about?
Yeah, so just a real base level here. The distillate that you find in cartridges, usually what's done with that is there's usually some sort of extraction process that happens to get the oil out of the plant, and then it's remediated. And it's put in a short path distillation unit where they use temperature to basically fraction off the parts of the cannabinoids and clean them out from all of the plant material that's there. So you get a pure Delta 9 or Delta 8 or CBN or CBG distillate, which can be, anywhere between 80 to 100%, pretty close to 100% pure of the cannabinoid they're looking for. And then to make it more medicinal, what we like to do is reintroduce terpenes. And so terpenes are really where I believe a lot of the medicinal properties of the plant come from. And so they'll reintroduce terpenes, which they can get the same way using a distillation to remove basically the smells, the essential oils from botanical plant matter, or they can use like hemp or cannabis derived terpenes. And so, yeah, it's, in my opinion, I think it's better if you can find distillate cartridges where they've added back terpenes from cannabis or hemp derived, because those plants, the hemp and cannabis, they also give you terpenoids, which mimic a lot of the cannabinoids that are in the plant, and they have an entourage effect with the terpenes as well. So you're getting more of a full plant experience if you can find hemp or cannabis derived terpenes added back to the distillate cartridges that you're purchasing.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's I think we're starting to see more cannabis derived terpene cartridges enter the market here. And I think it's a really important thing for patients to understand the difference between cannabis derived and a botanical derived terpene. And if I can just reiterate it back to you and make sure I understand it right. So with a cannabis derived or hemp derived terpene profile cartridge, you're getting a more complete picture of what that plant's terpene profile is, versus when you're using botanical or food grade terpenes, it's kind of it's not the complete package. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so there's one good example is there's a terpene called limonene. It comes from orange peels. It also comes from cannabis. And when you get it from cannabis, you get a monoterpene that follows with it that's like terpenoid. And so it gives you that full plant experience when those are together. When you get myrcene and limonene from an actual cannabis plant or a hemp plant, it's better because you're getting other parts of the cannabis plant with that oil than if you're getting it from orange peels. Because something that's kind of fascinating, the bottle of Goo Gone, that product that you use to remove sticky adhesive,
Sure,
that is pure limonene. And
No way.
so that whole bottle, I mean, you can use it as a surfactant to remove, crap off of, sticky stuff off of surfaces. So, and it's coming straight from an orange, but I don't know that I would want to have that mixed with my, cannabis distillate and then lose the effect that the cannabis terpenoids that would come with a terpene extracted from, a cannabis plant or a hemp plant would provide, more so than what the orange peel will.
Wow, that's a great point right there. That is news to me. So thank you for sharing that with us, and especially the fact that the terpenes coming from the cannabis plant have those terpenoids that they tend to bring along with them, and that the botanical or food grade terpenes don't have that. So again, just another reason why cannabis derived is a little bit more of a more medicinal, well-rounded type of product.
Can I also just mention one other thing real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, with terpenes too, what we have to remember is that those smells that the plant is putting off, those are chemical signals to bring pollinators in. And also, it's also, and the concentration that the plant can produce, it's to keep predation from happening too. So right now, it's really unknown how much of a percentage of terpenes can be put into a cartridge. And so one of the things that companies are trying to do, or at least the papers that are being seen right now with research, is that trying to keep your terpenes that you add back, if they're pure, keeping them to 8% or less, and actually lower than that, because a plant, if you pick the flower off of cannabis and you make live rosin out of it and you get that tested for terpene profile, you never really see much more than like 5% being the max.
Right.
And so to put more than that in a cartridge, just so a person gets a flavor experience, it's unknown what dose is higher than what the plant can produce will actually do, what the long-term effects are for humans consuming that or inhaling it. Because it's the plant's essential oil. So
right.
just something to be mindful of when you're looking at carts, and especially for manufacturers, if there's anyone out there who's like making or compounding these things, it's something that they should kind of be mindful of as well.
Totally. That's a great point. So terpene percentages, kind of looking to in the 5% ballpark range, is probably the best place to go. So excellent. Thank you for that. Kylee, can you explain a little bit on, what a patient can expect, on when they're using this, consuming this product, just again, a really general guideline. And then maybe if you can touch on what ratio vape cartridges are. Those are also kind of a newer type of product line that we've been seeing gain popularity over the past few years. And I think patients really need to have a better understanding of what ratios are and what they're good for.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with dosing. With vape cartridges, very similar to flower. They can be a little more concentrated sometimes depending on the cartridge. So I like to even go maybe a half a second inhalation to 1 or 2 second inhalation to start. Definitely take it a little easier. I never know what cartridge someone is going to pick. So we like to start a little more careful on that, and then go ahead and use it really similarly to how you would flower. The initial onset is immediate. Again, you'll have a peak in about 15 minutes. It will peak, and then you'll have that duration of I generally hear an hour to 90 minutes. I do have every once in a while someone come in and tell me it lasts longer than that, but not too often. I stick with about 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So with ratios, and I am seeing a lot of carts, a lot of 1-to-1 carts, and that just means one part of something. So one piece is the exact same amount as one other piece. So in this case, we'll just use THC and CBG because those are the carts that I'm seeing most often right now. That 1-to-1 means for every one THC molecule, there is one CBG. So we're just doing 1-to-1. There's the amount in there. That's kind of it. That's what we're seeing in these cartridges. So nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much. And real quick, while we're kind of talking about these, can you maybe, do you know if there's any like particular ratios or maybe, terpene like dominant profiles that you would recommend for patients, say with like chronic pain, or maybe that's really struggling to fall asleep?
So for chronic pain, currently I would pick something with CBG in it. I really like CBG. It's my favorite cannabinoid right now. We have a couple carts that are pretty close, if not a 1-to-1 ratio of THC to CBG. And my pain patients are flocking to those. And I love that they are because I think they work really, really well. For falling asleep, that is more difficult. That's not a thing. That's not a thing in Utah. I don't know. I don't know if I should talk about it.
That's true. So I guess if you, whatever works for your chronic pain, then, if your pain is keeping you up at night.
So,
but what we can say is, Kylee, is patients that experience pain, we talk openly about secondary conditions, right? Like I use it for pain, but it also helps with my insomnia, and that is something that's talked about often. So and I have had patients come to me and say like, look, I use this for pain, but I also now am using it for sleeping. And even the Department of Health did a study and said, what is your secondary, is it helping you with any secondary conditions? So as a secondary condition, we have a little bit of a window that some people have pain and it helps. But yeah, outright, you can't use it just for sleep. You can't get a card for sleep, but nothing stops it from helping you sleep.
Yes. I would probably just do something similar.
Excellent. That's fine. Sorry. Thanks for that clarification though, Des. Excellent. And so perfect. So we know a little bit about how to dose, how to consume, or how to dose your vape cartridges, how they're made, but how do you use them? So there are a few different, there are multiple different battery options currently available. In Utah, the most common one are typically your 510 thread vape cartridges. And those are the two in the middle that you see down below. And that's by and large the most common 510 thread vape cartridge battery combo. The PAX Era is a new battery and vape cartridge that has recently hit the Utah market and is currently being carried at our pharmacy. What's really great about it is that it comes with an app that you can connect to your PAX Era that gives you a bunch of controls over your vape battery, including setting a controlled dose, setting a child lock, and really nice dialed in temperature controls. The app is not available for Apple products, everyone, just a heads up. But you can still, if you do have an Apple phone, you can still utilize that app functionality by just going to the PAX Era website, and you can still use the app and connect it to your phone through the website. And Jake, do you have any additional points to add on to the PAX Era versus 510 thread battery conversation?
I think the only thing I'll add about the PAX Era is that it is really great to get the app on your phone. Like you said, it's only available on Android, but you can use the web browser on your Apple phone or iPhone and be able to sync it up with your device. The reason for that is the way the PAX Era is set up currently, without using the app, the temperature settings are quite high. So degradation and quick use of your cart is going to happen much quicker with those higher temperatures. And you might be losing the terpene profile that the people that are making the carts for the packs are trying to provide for you. So using the app lets you really lower the range that the packs will go and gives you like total control. So I believe the lowest setting is somewhere in the mid 200s and the highest setting is like above 800 degrees Fahrenheit. So
wow,
anything above 430, in my opinion, degrades what you're using in it way too fast, and basically just I don't know. I feel like it helps. It just speeds up the emptying of the cart. So just something to be mindful of.
Totally perfect. And so I think one thing I want to touch on too is I think a good chunk of the population here are a little bit wary of vape cartridges for understandable reasons. About a year or so ago, there were a bunch of news headlines about people having adverse reactions, getting hospitalized from using vape cartridges. I think that was largely traced to black market or traditional market vape cartridges. Can you maybe speak a little bit to that, Jake?
Yeah, buying your vape cartridges from a reputable dispensary or pharmacy is the way to do it, because they're all under regulation. If you purchase them black market or on dark pages on the internet, if they're coming from countries outside of the United States, they're usually going to have cadmium and lead as cheap, inexpensive metals that they can use to make the heating elements. And when those metals are heated and inhaled, well, it's not good. So most 510 threaded carts on the market are all stainless steel. And typically if they're, anything that reputable manufacturers or processors, what they're using, they're typically AVD. I think they're probably they're the most recognizable one. And basically anything that you're going to find in a pharmacy is going to be safe and nothing that you have to worry about. It's the black market purchases that you should be super leery of because they cut corners in order to improve their profit. So
Yeah.
Perfect.
we had an opportunity of kind of being involved a little bit with, you know, some of the conversations that were happening with this vape sickness, because, you know, when they were looking at it, we had just rolled out our program, and now they were very much looking at using this to take away vaping in Utah for medical cannabis. And they found exactly what Jake said over and over and over. These people that were sick never got these from a reputable, you know, business. They were using, you know, the lead, they were using the vitamin E acetate, and that is the things that, you know, that are going to make you sick. There was a lot of times talking to patients, they were like, I better stay away from vape products. And I'm like, I promise you, the medical, what passes in the medical market in Utah or anywhere else is not going to have any of those things. And it's not going to do the damage to your lungs. In fact, they've not even found damage for using, you know, for vaping medical cannabis, you know, as to use PRN as a medication. There's no studies that are showing that that's doing damage. So just stay inside the legal market. I know it's hard. I know it's expensive, but when you're shopping on the black market, you are literally picking up products that no one else could sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wouldn't pass any testing, and it trickles down to the black market, and that's what you're picking up there. So if you're worried about, you know, staying safe.
Perfect. Perfect. Well put, guys. Thank you so much for all that clarification. I think that's really important information to get out there, just to the population, and especially the patients. Just, you know, there's no need to worry about the safety of the vape cartridges at the pharmacies, because, you know, they're regulated, they're tested, and they are not allowed to use some of these dangerous materials that a lot of these you know, other kind of street vape cartridges that you might purchase have. So moving right along, now we're going to be talking about oral products. You know, some of the products that fall under that category will be capsules, gelatinous cubes, and Fico and Rso oil. And so before we really dive into the products themselves, we do want to present you guys with a little bit of a dosing guide that we got from Leafly. This is a really great just a frame of reference for all patients on kind of how to go about dosing your edibles. And to elaborate more on this, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kylee.
All right. So I cannot stress this enough with edibles. Please start low. Oh my gosh, start so low, because they are going to last so much longer than any inhaled forms. So generally, my first time patients, I'm going to start them off with probably 2.5 milligrams of THC, 1 milligram if they are taking something like a blood thinner or something like that. So definitely come and talk to me. We'll dose your edibles. And then we can move on to maybe 2.5 to 5 milligrams. That's the only place I kind of deviate from this chart. Is with my first time patients, I don't like to throw them straight into 10 milligrams or 15 milligrams. I think that's kind of a large jump from 2.5 milligrams, but it will have that stronger symptom relief and better kind of mood lifting properties. But don't start there, especially if you've never had edibles before. They're just different. They're definitely different.
Kylee, so could you maybe quickly speak to why it's with edibles in particular, you want to take a smaller dose? Does it kind of interact with our body differently?
Yeah.
Or is there something that's going on that is different when you inhale it versus when you ingest it?
So when you ingest it, the THC actually will go through the liver, and as it's being metabolized, it is changed. So it's changed into 11-hydroxy THC. I think that's, now that I'm in front of everybody, I can't think.
No, that's correct. You're right.
Okay, I got this. I'm a
My
chemist.
biochem degree agrees with you.
Right? Yeah, that was my degree, and I'm still over here like, excuse me? So it changes into this different type of THC that is actually more psychoactive, we're finding out. So you want to use a little less than you would from an inhaled form, and then it will last longer. You're looking at 4 or 8 hours of time instead of just 90 minutes. So yeah, be careful with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for clarifying that for all of us. So let's hop into some of the oral products available in Utah. So I think we're gonna start. We'll start with capsules. Capsules are a really nice product that they come in all different milligram sizes or doses. And what's really nice about these products is that it offers a already familiar method of consumption that maybe a lot of patients are familiar with from the pharmaceutical side. So it just is a nice transition product for patients that are nervous about inhaling or anything like that. And so, Jake, if you can speak to what's inside some of these capsules that patients would be consuming.
Yeah, so the capsules are generally either distillate or RSO or sometimes Fico, and they're usually cut with some sort of food grade wax and MCT oil. MCT oil will help to make it more absorbable and easier to work with on our end as well. So that's basically how the capsules are made. Do you want me to jump in on gelatinous cubes and?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and cover the gelatinous cubes, and then we can swing it over to Kylee for the dosing.
Yeah, so the gelatinous cubes, usually it's some sort of a gelatin-based, sugar-based type of, I guess, gummy that's what we call our product. It's heated to a specific temperature, so that way it doesn't get completely hard like your lozenges or some of the other like mints or other things that are on the market that are sugar-based. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The distillate's added to it at like a specific point during the process, right before we turn off the turn off the heat to it, so that way it doesn't totally degrade what we're working with. And yeah, it's distillate. I've seen RSO gummies on the market. There's also like Fico oil that's been used in gummies and lozenges. So yeah, it's pretty much basically the same process for lozenges and gummies or your gelatinous cubes. It's basically a temperature component that makes it either hard or soft, and gelatin to keep it so that way it's portable and doesn't kind of fall apart or get too sticky. And in the lozenges, none of that. So yeah.
Gotcha. Real quick question, Jake. What will happen if I were to leave my gummy container or my gelatinous cube container in my car for too long when it's parked?
You're gonna have one giant gelatinous cube.
Oh boy.
Okay, so Jake, at that point, if you have one giant gelatinous cube, what does that look like for using it? Because my assumption would be that it would melt at different weights, right? So could you even use it at that point?
I'm gonna send that one over to Kylee to answer.
I probably wouldn't use it. So in my time in the compounding world where I was compounding medications, you melt something down and then it's not mixed anymore. So I have no idea. I have no way to guarantee that the dosing is where it should be. If you melt it down and you decide to cut it up and use it, I can't guarantee that's the best course of action.
I would assume just with like the weight, like you might have some of it that would have no THC and some that would have all the THC. I think it would be a good time to just sadly throw out an entire bottle of gummies.
That is a really hard decision to make, but yes.
Yeah, one thing too, like just be mindful that it's your medication. So don't be careless, leaving it in your vehicle or leaving it out in the open. You should treat it just like you do anything else that you have in your medicine cabinet.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So Kylee, can you talk to us a little bit about, just the dosing on the capsule side of things and a little bit on the cubes as well?
Yeah, this is actually going to be, they're pretty much the same. You can get really similar dosing. The only thing that I'm seeing different in Utah right now is with gummies. I can often get like a 1-to-1 ratio or something like that when I'm not quite seeing that in capsules yet. I do have like full spectrum ones and stuff like that, but I'm not seeing a lot of like exact ratios. Start low, go slow, just like in the last slide where we talked about edibles. These are those edibles. So I love I love the idea of a 2 milligram capsule. I like that a lot. That way my brand new patients have a chance to use something that maybe they're more comfortable with than other dosage forms. Onset, you're looking at anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours. So, you know, patience is a virtue here. And then duration of action, I generally see 6 to 8 hours, though with a 2 milligram or something like that, you may see a little less time there.
Beautiful, beautiful. And like you said, so with the gummies, it's pretty same, each gummy is going to have a specific amount of milligrams, whether it's 5 or 50 per gummy. So correct?
Yes.
Cool. Perfect. Awesome. And so, and I love that point that you made too, that there are 2 milligram option capsules. So for all the kind of cannabis naive patients, or those just the patients that are new to cannabis or new to trying an oral product, those 2 milligrams might be a really safe starting point for you, just to get kind of familiarized with that experience. All righty. Okay, so I think it's also worthwhile for us to take a moment to kind of dive into the differences between Rso and Fico oil. We both have some of these products available to us in Utah. There's some nuances and differences between the two. And to elaborate more on that, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Jake.
All right, I'm gonna try not to get lost in the weeds on this one, but
yeah, I know this is gonna be a rabbit hole for sure.
Like, I honestly believe that Rick Simpson oil is probably the best medicine that's ever, been created, and he was such a genius. But so just a little background: Rick Simpson was a guy who, without getting too far into his story, he had skin cancer, and he extracted cannabis flower with ethanol at home and dried out the ethanol, rubbed it on his skin cancer spots on his face, and within a few days they had completely went away. So basically he figured out that this is something that has some sort of medicinal value, and he thought if it worked on his skin, what would it do internally, and saw major benefits from it, cleaning up some of his neuropathies that he had, and helping some other things that Kylee can probably speak to a little bit more when we get there. But so how they're made, so you can have Rick Simpson oil that can be made with ethanol, isopropyl alcohol. I've even heard of people using like pentane and hexane to do it, and then they basically remediate or remove the organic, and all you're left with is the full, you get basically the full spectrum of the plant. Now, how you make RSO will depend on, will determine, like, there's some specific things that if you do these sort of things, you'll make your RSO better and higher potency, and you won't lose your terpenes, which is where a lot of the entourage effect and medication aspect of RSO comes from. So one of the best ways to make Rick Simpson oil is to do it cold. You want to do cold ethanol extraction. Ethanol is food grade. It's your alcohol that you're consuming in beer or in vodka, whatever your alcohol choice is, ethanol is what that alcohol is called. So isopropyl alcohol actually comes from the fractioning of petroleum. So as they make petroleum, ethanol or isopropyl alcohol is one of the byproducts of it. So staying with ethanol, it gives you a cleaner product in the long run. And then by manipulating its temperature when you extract, the colder you can do it, the more of the medicinal properties of the plant you'll get. But if you go too cold with ethanol, you will not get the terpene profile. So there's a balancing act, and kind of like, it's great when a company has a chemist or somebody with a science background who understands that, because they're able to manipulate the polar properties of ethanol, so that way you get medicinal properties and not all the plant waxes, stanols, and sterols. So if somebody does follow the meticulous ways of making RSO, then what they could end up having is a FICO, which is a full extract cannabis oil. It will have almost no plant waxes, sterols, or stanols, and Fico generally, like Rick Simpson oil, will have the terpenes in it as well, and it will be flowable and really easy to use. Now you can have Rick Simpson oil that is also Fico, and one of the ways to tell is how clear the oil is when you take it out. So it can still have like a green tint to it or maybe a brown tint to it, but it'll be like a gel that you can actually see through, because there won't be a bunch of chlorophyll, a bunch of plant waxes, and all of the parts of the plant that gives the plant structure. Because ethanol will not only extract the medicinal parts, depending on how warm the ethanol will, it'll dissolve the plant matter too. And then once that happens and you get the oil that holds the plant cells together, now you have what a lot of people like to call concrete, which is an RSO product that's really hard to use and really hard to get out of the dart that it's packaged in, or like the dabbing cart that it might be in as well. So that's basically the idea there. Now Fico, if you have one that's really clear and it has no green or brown tonation to it, usually it's because they've winterized it, and that's a really good thing to remove, you know, those waxes and sterols and chlorophyll. But ethanol also can extract terpenes, and so if you do it, you know, if you do it at different temperatures, there's that aspect of it too. But they're both like superior products and probably the best medicine that comes out of the cannabis industry. And Fico, in my opinion, if you can find an RSO that's a Fico, in my opinion, that's the best way to go.
That's perfect. I think, you know, that, thank you for all that information. That's great background. And, you know, I tend to agree with you as well, that if, you know, these two particular products, I mean, that is maximizing the potential, you know, of the components of the cannabis plant and making it into a very, you know, relatively easy, you know, form to consume.
Sorry, there was one other point I wanted to also touch on. If your RSO has MCT oil in it to help it flow and move, that's not a bad thing, but you just want to be mindful that you're not inhaling, you know, vaporizing an RSO with MCT oil in it, or basically an RSO that's not a Fico, because it's going to have more of the parts of the plant that shouldn't be burned and inhaled.
Perfect. And so, Kylee, can you maybe touch on real quick, you know, different ways that you can kind of consume and maybe dose some of these products?
Yes.
Maybe, you know, some cautionary words of caution about these products as well.
Yeah. So with Rick Simpson oil, that is the one we don't inhale. This is oral, sublingual, or topical. Don't use it by inhaling it. And generally with patients, we'll start out with a grain of rice size dose, just like on your finger or on a piece of chocolate or whatever it is, however you kind of want to consume it that way. And I know that grain of rice is subjective, but error on the side of caution. These are intensely concentrated. So start with a little tiny grain of rice sized, a smaller grain of rice size, and then slowly titrate up from there. So work that dose up from there until you get the feeling that you're kind of looking for, or the effect that you're looking for. Fico is exactly the same. Start low, start super low, but with Fico, you can actually like dab that. You can put it in, I don't know what.
Concentrate pen?
Yeah, so you could, yeah, thank you so much. I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
It's teamwork.
Love it. So you can put it in one of those and inhale it. I don't find that a lot of my patients do, but it is an option.
Yeah, and I think it's just good to know that, you know, we're just giving, you know, presenting the information. These are the different ways that you can use it. I did see a question about, can you mix Fico in topicals or with lotions?
Absolutely. Yes. And it will work really fabulously at the site.
And I feel like, you know, Fico is probably one of the most versatile products, cannabis products, like that there is. I mean, there's so many different ways. It's already activated. All the cannabinoids are activated already. And so, and then you can infuse it into other products and things of that nature, or just consume it, you know, as is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you can do with it. And again, it is also a very concentrated product. So thank you guys. All right. So moving on to, I believe, our final product category, sublingual products. Or actually, no, this is our third one. So sublingual products are going to be your tinctures, lozenges, and oral sprays. So, you know, the most popular and commonly used sublingual product is a tincture. And if Jake, if you're able to just give us a little background on how tinctures are made.
Yeah, usually it's your distillate or extract, cannabis oil extract, and it's suspended in usually MCT oil or some sort of vegetable oil, olive oil I've seen as well. And you have there's a dropper, so it makes, you know, using it easier. But yeah, it's a really simple process. You just, because the nature of THC and all of the different cannabinoids, they're all soluble in oil. So they, you know, it's easy to dissolve them in that and then give you a carrier to be able to take it.
Perfect. And then Kylee, what's how you know, can you elaborate a little bit on, you know, how patients can kind of use these products?
So dosing with tinctures can be a little tricky. There's different concentrations on different tinctures. So some are more concentrated than the others. Usually with a less concentrated form, it may be a 1-to-5 tincture or a 1-to-10 tincture or something like that. I would start with 1/4 of a milliliter and I would work up from there. Give it a couple days, especially if you're really new to cannabis. Give it a few days before you start using more than that. We do have more concentrated tinctures, and on those, I'm generally saying 2 to 3 drops to start with. And that's about the same amount of THC as that 1/4 ml in the less concentrated tinctures. Onset, if you can hold it under your tongue for 1 to 2 minutes, you'll probably see onset in 15 minutes. If you swallow most of it, you won't see the onset for about 2 hours, I would probably guess.
Mhm.
And then duration of action, they say it's anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. I often see 6 to 8 hours. And yeah.
Perfect.
We don't, and I don't know, maybe this isn't a question I should ask right now. So Julian, you know, be prepared to cut my mic. So I talk to majority of parents of pediatric patients that tinctures is their go-to, right? So is there anything specific that you would say to a pediatric patient, you know, been through the compassionate use board, on usage and just being careful with tinctures?
Oh, we go much lower with children. So when I have children, we generally start with a 1-to-10 tincture, and the 1-to-10 tinctures that I'm talking about are the 1 THC to 10 CBD type tinctures. Way low on THC, plenty of CBD has or is showing better effect in the studies in children. And we'll start with as low as 0.1 ml, depending on the age, the size of the child. Please come and talk to your pharmacist if you're going to be dosing a child.
Right, for sure. I mean, they have to talk to you every time anyway, but if you're dosing a child, just be extra vigilant on making sure that you don't, you know,
Yeah.
you don't go places you shouldn't go.
Yeah.
Perfect. That was a great question, Des. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a great question. And so I know Jay kind of covered how lozenges are made in a previous slide. Very similar process to a hard candy. It's just the heating of it and the cooling of it is slightly different to end with a harder candy. A lozenge is basically, think of it like a cough drop. So it's just a harder, you know, it's a hard candy that you just suck on in your mouth. I think that's pretty much it. Jake, did you have anything else to add on the lozenges, or Kylee?
No, sorry if you guys heard my cat. She had the zoomies for a minute, so she was running around.
Nice. You're good.
Cats are welcome at night school, so you're fine.
Yeah, pets are allowed. All right. Oral sprays. This is a really interesting product. Jake, a little background on how these are made.
Yeah, basically just the same as a lozenge, just the same as your tinctures. But they have an atomizer or a sprayer to atomize it into a smaller particle size. So yeah,
Perfect.
it's basically exactly the same way. You put your distillate or Rso or Fico or, whatever your extract is, suspended in olive oil, MCT oil, another neutral oil of some sort. Then it's put into like a small spray bottle that helps atomize it. So just makes it easier. Yeah.
Beautiful. Kylie, how should I go about using this oral spray?
Okay, so this is
I
just
spray it like cologne or?
no, don't do that. You're gonna give people ideas.
Yeah, no, sir. Sorry. Last clown, guys. There's always one.
So usually these come in 2 milligram per spray or 5 milligram per spray right now. That's what I'm seeing the most of because you can't take half a spray. So we are a little more careful with the oral sprays. You're going to just put it in your mouth like those breath sprays that everybody was super into when I was way too young to know anything about that. Spray under your tongue, on the inside of your cheek, just anywhere in your mouth, it's going to absorb really well. And they tend to be a little more concentrated than tinctures, so you don't need a huge spray. It's a lot less liquid having to sit in your mouth for a long time. And that's generally why my patients move from something like a tincture over to an oral spray. They're just so easy to use.
Perfect. Is this this is a product that you would say is probably a good starting point for some patients that are probably newer or new to cannabis?
For a newer patient, but maybe not a brand new patient, I generally like to figure out how much THC they like before I move them to an oral spray.
Gotcha.
I have, older patients or patients that have never used cannabis ever. And even a 2 milligram or a 5 milligram, if they have to commit to that whole spray, I do get a little worried, a little more concerned if they're really brand new.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification.
So Kylie, sometimes they'd use these ones that have the very fast onset for like a rescue med. So you want so I know with like a lot of times patients want to know like, okay, so if I'm going to use this as my rescue med to get out of pain, when would you say then, because they know like if they take a gummy, it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour until it starts to work. So if they were to take this oral spray, how long should they wait until they take a gummy? Because the gummy is, this is going to get them through, this is going to start making it work, but then, so there's not a big overlap. When would you say to then take the gummy after this?
So if you don't swallow all of your oral spray, you could almost use them together. Especially if you have the 2 milligram one. If you have the lower dose one, you could use them together to get the immediate effect of that. So if you make sure that you're holding it in your mouth and you're not swallowing it along with the gummy, you could almost use them together. If you are more prone to swallowing that all and then it's acting like a gummy, I would almost say don't use them together.
Okay. Awesome. Because you think it would last almost as long. This will last almost as long as a gummy.
Yeah.
If you,
so it's going to be really similar to a gummy. And if you swallow it all, it's going to act exactly like a gummy.
But it would still have the onset of 15 minutes, which is still faster than a gummy, correct?
It's faster. Yes. So just be careful with these if you're trying to mix them with a gummy.
Perfect. Great questions. Great answers. Thank you guys for all this clarification. But yeah, oral sprays. So our final product category are topical products. So these are your salves, creams, and transdermal patches. Yeah, let's just hop right into it. Jake, little background here.
It's kind of like a broken record, but usually it's like it's the same concept as like your tinctures, but you want to do something that's going to be topical. So usually they're some sort of like vegetable glycerin based lotion, or they can also be like water as well. There's some emulsification processes that have to happen in order to like do a water based cream. But yeah, basically you're just putting your distillate or your extract into a carrier solution like your regular hand lotion or body lotion, and yeah, it basically it. It's not. It's yeah. It's pretty funny how simple some of the stuff that we
Yeah.
do is, but yeah, it's
Good.
basically the
Hey,
same thing. Yeah.
you know that, and that's totally fine. You know, again, we're just trying to again just demystify and help people understand, you know, what these products are made out of. And so yeah, again, these are very simple, straightforward products. Kylee, can you tell us a little bit about dosing? If I were to put a topical cream or a salve like these on my skin, am I going to feel this throughout my whole body? Am I going to feel like a high with this? Can you
No.
shed some light?
No, these are generally isolated to where you apply them. The onset is quick. We do say 15 minutes, but a lot of my patients tell me that it's much faster than that. Duration, it could be anywhere from 1 to 3 hours or longer, especially with ones that are more fatty. So stuff that's waxy or oily, they're going to last a little bit longer. I really like those ones. So yeah, not psychoactive. That is not a challenge though. Please don't put these on from head to toe.
Right.
Keep them
Per-
localized to the injury.
Perfect.
Hey,
Perfect.
Kylee, one question that I always get, and I honestly don't know how to answer. I've heard different things, but what do you say if a patient says, if I take this, will I test positive for THC on a topical?
That is an excellent question. I would say no, because it doesn't affect your blood circulation.
That's what I've heard. But it's always posed. It's always asked. If I
Yeah.
try this, am I going to test positive for THC? The thing is if you do, and your job says you can't have THC, you just tested positive for THC. So
I mean, make sure it's not on your hands. Yes.
Jake put his finger up. What, Jake?
Yeah, actually, I need to demystify that because that was basically my job in my previous life, my previous career. You will, depending on how long you use the salve and how many applications you make, like if you use a full jar of the salve, you know, over a period of time, after several applications, you do start building up a plasma serum level of THC, and so you will start to test positive. So it's something to be mindful of.
That's great information for people to be aware of. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Very easy product to use. You're not really going to experience any psychoactivities, but keep in mind, if you're only using topicals, if you're using them heavily, that may turn up on a drug test if you're required to take one. So definitely be mindful of that. And then lastly, our transdermal patches. Also a really great, unique product that's available here in Utah. And Jake, you know the drill. Send it your way.
So, this is one of my favorite ones to talk about. Yeah, so just like your topicals that you put on your skin, the reason why they work and they work to absorb in is that the molecule size of all of your cannabinoids is small enough to cross into your epidermis and your different layers of your skin. So yeah, the oil is applied in a very thin layer and distributed throughout the patch. And so because it's in a thin layer, it helps it to absorb through your skin. I'm sorry, my neighbor upstairs is like literally kicking the floor. So if you hear that.
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry for that. So perfect. So these can be stuck on, you know, just about anywhere, and they will be absorbed into your bloodstream. So there definitely is a little bit of psychoactivity that a patient's going to experience with that. Real quick, just before we dive in to Kylie's side of this, is it possible to cut these up into smaller pieces and save them for later, or
yeah, so we've seen, like, the vice president of our company at Standard Wellness, Kylee will probably be able to attest to this, but she uses it for you know, her Kylee, you know what I'm trying to say. We'll get to it. Anyhow, you can, because I'm not allowed to talk about how to use the thing, so I just want to I'll leave that for Kylee. But yes,
you can mention the story and Kylee can verify.
Yeah, I'll say it, and then Kylee can back me up and verify.
Okay.
But the patch doesn't actually, like, if you put it on for a couple of hours, you haven't used up all of the medicinal properties that we've applied to the patch. So you can take it off your skin and put it back on the backing of your patch and hold on to it and reuse them. Like I was saying, our vice president, she uses them for her menstrual cramps, and so she only uses it for the short period of time, and she'll make one patch last up to 12 hours. So she's been able to, keep getting an effect from the patch just by saving it and only using it for an hour or two at a time. Because, yeah.
10 out of 10, I endorse this.
Perfect. Thank you, Kylee. Yeah, Kylee, can you just, speak a little bit on what patients can expect when they're using a product like this?
Yeah, so onset is pretty quick. 15 minutes. I don't usually see 45 minutes, but we say that just in case. Everybody's different. And a lot of my patients will actually put these right where the pain is, and it can help that way. And it also enters that circulation. So you're getting, I don't know, relief from every angle. I think these are really cool. And then they do last, you can leave one patch on for 12 hours straight if you want to, or like Jake mentioned, you can take it off, put it back on that little plastic film, and then come back to it later. Even maybe maybe you come back to it the next day and you put it on again for a few more hours. As it will add up to 12 hours and you can keep using that same patch.
Beautiful. Is this a good product for people that are kind of just starting to get a little bit familiar with cannabis, or
yes,
maybe start with the topical first?
As long as you buy one of the lower dosages first.
Perfect. And maybe cut that up into, a smaller piece.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So yeah, a very versatile product, easy to use. You can cut it up. You can put it right on the areas for pain, or anywhere else on your body. Lots of good uses for this particular product. And they last a long time. You can use them for 4 hours, put it back in the packaging, then use it again for another 4 to 6 hours. So definitely try them out if you haven't yet. And that wraps it up, guys. So thank you all for sticking with us. We had a blast covering all these topics. I just want to real quick before everyone hops off, encourage you all to follow us on Facebook. You can see all our Facebook and Instagram handles there. Definitely give our delivery service a shot if you haven't already. It's really awesome. We deliver down to St. George, Logan, Vernal, Duchesne, even Moab, pretty much the entire state. And if there are any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I also do want to remind you guys about the couple of coupon codes that we have. If you go to Utah Patients Coalition Facebook page, you'll see they made a post a few weeks or a couple weeks ago about a coupon code that we did for them. It's good for 20% off.
We will refresh that, so it's at the top.
Perfect. Yep. So if you go there soon, the code will be at the top. It expires on May 31st. So end of day, May 31st. That code is no longer good. So definitely use it before it expires. It's one-time use. And then we are also doing a 15% discount on all standard wellness products, excluding flour. Also, if you want to purchase an online order or a delivery order, just use the code standard15. And again, that applies just to standard wellness products. And with that said, I think we were able to answer a lot of questions from the chat as they came in. Do any of you all, any of my co-hosts, have any final words of wisdom to impart to our students tonight?
Oh, hey, I don't know if we glossed over it, but there was a section on rosin, I think. I don't remember that slide coming up. But
yeah, so we left rosin out on this particular slide because it's still an extremely limited product. And we didn't really want to like excite people too much about it before, but if you do want to speak to it, by all means.
Yeah, so just a little demystification on what live rosin, bubble rosin, all that is. It's basically just using heat and a press to extract, a full spectrum of the plant. And live rosin is going to have more terpenes because they're actually picking the buds. As they're cutting the buds off, they're being pressed immediately. And so having heat applied and high pressure pressing gives you this like beautiful full spectrum like resin from the plant. So you basically, it's like you're squeezing the life out of it, literally. And then bubble rosin is basically, or hash rosin is basically the same thing, except it's not from a live plant. It's from a plant that's been cured, or they've like collected the hash through like bubble hash methods, and then they use that after they've dried and cured it. They'll press that the same exact way. And then just your normal rosin is from cured buds, basically. So
Perfect. And again, those are all solventless extracts, using heat and pressure. Bubble hash though is usually using ice water, correct? And using those
that's to collect the trichome. Yeah, you use ice water to collect the trichomes to make them fragile so they break off the plant. It's collected like bubble hash, and then the process is the same for creating the rosin from it.
Perfect. And yeah, all our Utah patients, these products are still in very limited supply at some of the pharmacies here in Utah. But again, we expect as more cultivation comes online, because flower is what feeds all those wonderful concentrates and extracts. The more flower that we have online, the more flower that will be available for all that extraction. So, keep your eyes open. I think second half of the year, we'll start seeing a lot more availability on that. I think we're going to have to make a whole cannabis night school specifically on all the different types of extracts, concentrates, or dabs, however you want to call them. That could be a whole hour right there. So yeah, thank you again so much, Jake, for coming on. Thank you to Standard Wellness for partnering with us on this. You guys are great. Thank you, Des, so much for coming out. Utah Patients Coalition, amazing group. Everyone definitely checked it out. And Kylee, thank you for joining us also. You're amazing. And class is officially dismissed. So thank you all so much. We will have our next episode of Cannabis Night School. We'll go live 2 weeks from tonight. We're going to be talking about how cannabis interacts with the body, just some basics on endocannabinoid system, the phytocannabinoids, terpenes, all that juicy stuff. Really excited for that one. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye.
Perfect.